Happy Monday, everyone.
Happy Monday.
We are back. Title of this video, our column fish tanks, the worst tanks ever designed, ever thought of in the history of aquarium fish keeping. Well, I guess the title's not quite that long, but you get the idea. We're going to talk about these column tanks today. They're not all they're cracked up to be, although they can be pretty cool, right?
Yeah, they sure can.
Let's take a closer look. Now, if you've had column tanks before or you're thinking about getting one, there are some cool things about these tanks. One, they look cool. They're a little bit different than most of the tanks that you see on the market, being a lot taller than they are wider.
Number two, I really love it that it takes a smaller footprint, so you can fit it in a lot of different places. It's not going to take up a lot of room on your counter, your desk, a surface, and you're going to get a lot of height and quite a few gallons of water in that bad boy.
The other cool thing about a column tank is you could actually begin thinking about how you're going to be stocking the tank. Do we want some fish at the top, the middle, the bottom? And so you can add that element into your stocking options.
And then of course you have scaping. You can have some totally different scapes when you have a vertical tank. Looks really kind of cool. So one of the big negatives for me is, yes, you're going to get a smaller footprint for this tank, which is great to fit it in somewhere. However, you're going to get a smaller footprint for your scape. That may sound, it's not too bad. Until you get to scaping your tank, you may not realize that that piece of driftwood you got won't fit, or you can't fit those rocks in, or you actually have to stack those rocks up so that they stay where they're stacked and not fall over. It can be a little bit of a challenge to scape that tank.
The other issue you might encounter with your column tank is filtration. A lot of the hang-on back filters and even small canister filters that are used in tanks, the intakes aren't nearly long enough to deal with that very tall tank, and so you could wind up with some very interesting water flow going on in that tank and some dead spots within the tank itself.
Now, not only will it cause you some issues with filtration, also lighting, because the light is at the top of the tank and you've got quite a distance to the bottom of the tank. So if you're planting a lot of plants throughout the entire vertical space, those bottom plants may not be getting enough light. And if your light conks out, you will probably be having a little bit of a challenge finding a replacement light.
The other issue to consider, and it's similar to what we talked about with the filtration, is the water flow and therefore the gas exchange that's happening. Again, the nice thing is you have this small footprint. You also have a very small area in the top of the tank relative to the rest of the volume. And so if you don't have adequate water flow, there is a scenario where you could have less gas exchange going on, less oxygen towards the bottom of that tank, and it's something that has to be overcome with either an air stone or possibly a sponge filter.
Now, when you go to clean your tank, you may have some issues. Say you also have a dead fish that you have to get out. You will realize that your net will not go in horizontally. You may have a hard time getting into there, and even with your gravel vac, you may not, depending on your scape, however you've designed your scape, you may not be able to get that gravel vac in between the rocks. So it can present significant challenges when you want to clean your tank. And then of course, the last part of maintenance is what happens if you get algae on your glass. You are going to have to scrape the sides of that glass, so hopefully you have really long arms.
So bottom line is, when it comes to a column tank, you are going to need longer pieces of cleaning equipment, whether it's gravel vacs or algae scrapers
Or arms.
or arms or nets, to get to the bottom of that tank. And last but not least, when you are thinking about stocking that fish tank, we talked about how the advantage is you might be able to stock fish thinking about the top, the middle, and the bottom of the tank. But you do have to take it a step further and make sure the fish aren't going to be overly active. Again, almost all fish like to have horizontal swimming space. They don't often use the vertical part. And so when you're looking for fish for a column tank, you do have to make sure that they're either going to be less active or they're going to be fish that like to swim all around the place, like guppies or endlers, or something that's a little bit less active. Bottom line is the column tank the worst tank idea ever? Well, we have one in the kitchen.
We do.
And we're actually thinking about adding more because we do like the smaller footprint. So are they the worst tanks ever made? I don't think so. They're different, and as long as you consider the things that we've talked about in this video, a column tank can, in fact, be a really enjoyable experience as long as you know what you're getting yourself into. Now, if you're looking for more information about column tanks, we actually did a review on the 15-gallon Aquarium column tank. Long-term follow-up, I'll put that down here somewhere as well as in the description below. Appreciate you being here, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
You have to know.
What he said.
Yeah, you just got to know. If you don't know, man, you're going to be in trouble. You can't keep fish. All right.